Okay, so we're going to do one more example here together. Number 3, your A value here is going to be 0.1. Your H value, since there's nothing up here with the X, the H value is 0, meaning it's not moving left or right at all. Your K value is at the end there, and it's going to be -3. And your base for this one is going to be 6, because that's what's being raised to the exponent power. I'll write that a little bit nicer, 6. So your X values are going to be -1, 0, and 1. But upon your X values, you're going to do plus H. Your Y values are 1 over your base, 1, and the base. So 1 over your base in this case is 1 over 6. 1 is 1, and your base is 6. And to your Y values, you're going to multiply by A and add K. And so let's go ahead and do that. So your H value is 0. So for all of your X values, you're going to be adding 0 to them, meaning they're not going to move at all. Your Y values for this example, you're going to multiply by 0.1, and then you are going to subtract 3. So we're going to do 1/6 times 0.1 minus 3. And when we go ahead and calculate what that is, that's -2.98. For the next one, we're going to take 1 and we're going to multiply it by 0.1 and then subtract 3. And so if we multiply by 0.1 and then subtract 3, it's going to be -2.9. And for our last one, we're going to multiply by 6 by 0.1 and subtract 3. And if we multiply those by 0.1 and subtract 3, we're going to have -2.4. So we can go ahead and graph those, -1, -2.98, 0, -2.9, and 1, -2.4. Now this looks very shrunk down, and that is because your A value here, since it's 0.1, it's actually a vertical compression of 0.1, which means it gets 0.1 as tall as it normally would. It gets squished by a factor of 1/10, which is why it's so kind of short here. Your asymptote for this one here is going to be a horizontal line. It's always going to be y equals, and it's always going to be y equals your k value, which in this case is -3. Once we figure that out, we draw your horizontal line across your graph so that we can graph this a little bit nicer. It's going to get close to that number, but never actually touch. Your domain is always going to be negative to positive infinity for your exponentials because you can go left and right on your graph for forever. Your range is low to high, so your graph gets super close to 3 but never touches it, and it's pointing up for forever, so up to positive infinity. This one, my base is 6, which means, excuse me, this is going to be an exponential growth function. And we already talked about the vertical compression of 1. We also have moved our graph down by 3 because of that k value. So that's how you graph exponential functions. If you want to go ahead and try your homework problem, I will actually walk you through your homework problem on this video. So go ahead and try it first, and then come back to here, and you can hear the verbal explanation of the homework for today. So for this homework problem, your base here is going to be 4. Your A value is normally out in front of that base, and so since it's not there, your A value is going to be 1. Your H value is going to be up with the X, and it's going to be the opposite of what's there. So since it's +1, it's actually going to be -1, and that's because it is actually moving your graph left by 1. Your K value is at the end, it is -5, and that is moving your graph down 5. So for your x values, you normally do -1, 0, and 1. Your y values are normally 1 over your base, 1, and the base. Upon your x values, you're going to be adding h to it. So for all of these ones, we are actually going to subtract 1. So we're going to do -1 minus 1, and we're going to get -2 back out. We're going to do 0 minus 1, and we're going to get -1 back out. And then the last one, 1 minus 1, gives us 0. Your y values, you're going to multiply by a, and then you're going to add k. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to multiply by 1 and then subtract 5. So 1/4 times 1 minus 5 is going to end up being -4.75. 1 times 1 minus 5 is -4. And 4 times 1 minus 5 is -1. So we're going to graph each of those points. We're going to go ahead and we're going to graph our asymptote as y equals k, which is y equals -5. And that's going to help us get the shape of our graph here. Our domain is -infinity to +infinity. And our range is -5 up to +infinity. This function has a base that is 4, which means this is going to be exponential growth because it did not get flipped over the x-axis. So it is exponential growth. And then your last one here, number 2, you have your graph. We want to move it to the right 5. We want to stretch it vertically by 2. And then one other thing we want to do is move it up 3. So what this would look like is the vertical stretch by 2 is your a value. That's going to go out in front. So that's going to be 2. We're going to leave 1/2 to the x alone just because that was our original functions. The right 5 is your h value. So it's going to go up with your x in the exponent here. But to move it right, as a reminder, we want to do the opposite. So it's going to be -5. Your k value is up 3. So this is going to be at the very end here. You're just going to do +3 at the end. So here is your new function, stretched vertically by 2, moved right 5, and moved up 3. Thanks for listening. I hope this helped.